Welcome to the culmination of our series about 2D animation. Today we're going to show you how to create your own animations using Adobe Photoshop. Let's not waste any time and get into it. Perhaps some of you weren't aware that Photoshop, next to being the premium photo editing and digital painting software, is also capable of animation. Now, there are dedicated 2D animation software such as Toon Boom Harmony or Adobe Animate, but for the sake of accessibility and simplicity, we're going to focus on Photoshop today. Keep in mind that the basics are the same for all software, so learn one and you'll learn them all, practically. To access the animation feature, we need to first activate our timeline. We do that by checking the Motion option under Workspace in the Window tab. Once that is done, we get access to our timeline. From there, we're going to select the Create Frame Animation option, since we're going to draw the animation from scratch, frame by frame. Make sure to check the Create New Layer for each new frame in the menu to the right to help make the workflow a bit easier. And with that, we can start working on the animation proper. The canvas size we'll be working on is 1920 by 1080 pixels, 300 dpi, which is the standard high definition ratio. But in this day and age, people are working with all kinds of formats to fit Instagram Reels or wider screens, so you're free to choose the proportions you desire. So here we go, onwards with the first step. Now that our workspace is all shiny and ready for you to unleash your creativity upon it, we need to figure out what we are animating exactly. Normally, for more complex scenes, animators work off of storyboards that were drawn based off of an existing script. But for the sake of our example, we're going to be working off of something far simpler. Let's say our script says, "a little boy winking." You can use any design or model sheet or just come up with something on the spot. Heck, it doesn't even have to be a boy. As for us, here's the storyboard that we will be working off of. Ta-da! Anyways, next we're going to lay down the foundation of our animation. We do that by drawing our keyframes. Usually keyframes are handled by a separate team in larger production, since they serve to determine the most important shots of any given scene, as well as how they are lit, colored, and composed. For us, however, we're simply going to draw the first frame and the last frame of our animation, along with a middle frame, one that is exactly at the in-between point of the action starting and ending. You can mark your keyframes by putting a little dot in a corner or any other way you would like. The first step to executing this is creating our actual frames. So click on the New Frame button on the bottom left to your timeline. It's going to automatically create a new layer to draw on for each new frame added. Now, the way we manipulate what is visible on each frame is by toggling the visibility of our layers. Essentially, every single frame has access to what is drawn on every single layer at all times, but every one of them has the ability to show the content of any combination of layers individually. So, if I were to select the first frame and toggle the visibility on the first layer, it's only going to show the content of the first layer. If I were to click on another frame, the image will disappear and you'll have to toggle the layer visibility again for it to show something. This can make it easier to animate different objects simultaneously and will allow you to work without worrying about the cleanliness of your animation, since multiple layers can represent a single frame. So for each of our keyframes, we're going to draw, as we have established, the 3 different steps of our winking motion. You have keyframe 1, here's keyframe 2, and here's keyframe 3. We set the delay between the frames to 0, but that number can be played around with depending on what you're looking for in the finished product. And now that our 3 keyframes are complete, we can press the play button on the timeline to view our first animatic. It should look something like this. Now, this is the step that really depends on you and the amount of patience that you have. Generally, if you are seeking to create high-quality feature film-worthy animation, you need to be having 24 frames or 24 drawings every second. We refer to this as FPS or frames per second. With the very little patience I have today, I'm just going to add enough in-betweens for this to look clean enough to be presented as a first draft. The way you add in-betweens is simple. You create new frames between your keyframes and slightly modify the drawing in each frame to represent the next step of the action. And you repeat the process until the animation is as smooth as you would like it to be. You can mess around with the colors of your frames and opacity of the layers to be as precise as you would like. Or you can just wing it. It's also an option, honestly. Keep in mind that every frame is essentially its own workspace, so you can change colors by adding clip-in masks that you can toggle off in other frames and it won't affect what is shown there. So, feel free to experiment with your workflow and find the process that suits you best. With all the in-betweens added, you can obtain a result similar to this one. And with that, we can move into cleanup and color. At this stage, we're going to assume that we're talking to absolute beginners. So, for now, we will tell you that you do not need to worry about animating colors and lighting quite yet. For now, just focus on the fundamentals and make sure you understand and practice making your animation as smooth as possible during the line art stage. After that, fill in colors is just any other regular illustration, except that you're going to repeat it a lot. Like a lot. But what can you do to get to that stage? Here are some fun exercises that you can adopt to practice your movement. The ball bouncing in place exercise. This exercise will help you loop your animations properly, work on your timing, and on the squashing and stretching of your subject matter. Remember to have a delay between the ball hitting the ground and it bouncing up to match the acceleration and deceleration laws of gravity. Ball bouncing across the screen exercise. This one is going to take what you learned in the previous exercise and push it further by introducing momentum and object interaction, like how hitting the ground and the wall will affect the movement of the ball. Dang, that rhymed. Anyways, flour sack waving. The flour sack is a very common exercise given in most animation schools. The goal is to learn how to portray emotion through body language, not just facial expressions. It also teaches you how to exaggerate body movements to be as convincing as possible, all while staying accurate to the physics of a flour sack. So you can start by making it wave, but after that you can make it walk, jump, or do any other action that comes to mind. The walk cycle. This is the ultimate test of believability. Once you have mastered the basic walk cycle, you can try to animate a walk with some emotion, like happy walk, angry walk, sad walk. You get the idea. And that concludes our little introduction to 2D animation in Adobe Photoshop. We hope that we have provided a good enough base to get you started and motivated to explore this beautiful medium. Many other programs such as GIMP and Clip Studio Paint offer the timeline tool, so work with whatever you have access to and remember that animation is all about intention. Make sure to have fun! If you enjoyed today's content, make sure to like and subscribe, hit that bell to please the algorithm overlords, and leave a comment with your thoughts. Maybe even show it to a friend who could use it. With that being said, thank you for watching as always, and see you next time.